First at 5, late-breaking news from the KSAT newsroom and the San Antonio Fire Department. Within the last hour, multiple sources have told KSAT 12 that Fire Chief Charles Hood is stepping down from the department following an investigation into inappropriate comments he made about women. We have tried to reach out to the fire chief. We have not been successful as of news time. This is the first time that you've done an interview since you retired.
And I heard it mentioned that I leave this department, in disgrace.
Was the president of the fire union.
Yeah, I could never leave in disgrace. I leave standing tall, chest out, and my head hung high.
Let's hit what happened at the end of your tenure head on and talk about the statement that was attributed to you. I'm not exactly sure the exact words.
Yes.
What's your message to your firefighters? He was fire chief for 16 and a half years. Doesn't seem like it was that long, but 16 and a half years. I'd like to thank former Fire Chief Charles Hood for joining us for the Spriester Sessions. Charles, thank you for being here.
It's an honor.
When I think about it and you say 16 and a half years, this is the first time you and I have sat down and done an interview where you're not the Fire Chief of San Antonio. What does that feel like?
It's weird. It's weird to be on camera and not have something smoking or burning behind you, or at council chambers talking about a budget or some new enhancements. So it's kind of different, really is.
Are you used to it?
No, not really. And it's a transition for me. And so a lot of the things that you do as a firefighter, you're always going to be a firefighter. And as a fire chief, even though you're retired, you're still a fire chief. And so it's really a transition to move away from some of those things. But a lot of the important things and the things that you've grown up with, they're never going to leave you. This
is the first time that you've done an interview since you retired. Why was it important for you to do an interview?
Interestingly enough, when you go through something like what I did, you really don't look at the news. You really don't pay attention to what's being said. And I've been here long enough to know that sometimes a lot of the things that are said are people's perspectives. And if you listen to that, it's going to put you in a pretty dark place. And so I had to really caution my kids, especially my two younger children, who, when I got here, they were 6 and 4. They spent half of their lives in the backseat of a vehicle, so they know what kind of chief I am. And for them to be away in college and hear some of these reports, I had to pull them off of a ledge, and they were very upset. And so again, for me to have an opportunity, a one and only chance to talk about my perspective of what happened, but mainly to talk about the wonderful 16 and a half years that I've had here. Because what people don't understand is most fire chiefs, they come in and they work 3 to 5 years. Very few make 10 in a metro-sized department. I was the longest standing fire chief in the nation of a metro department, 16 and a half years. So it's been a great ride. I'm blessed.
What's your message to people who are watching this?
My message to people that are watching this is that everybody watching this, you're going to call 911 in your lifetime. Your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your neighbor, statistically, everyone is going to call 911. We have the finest fire-based EMS system in the world. And we have built that over the last 16 and a half years. Departments from all over the country come and see what we're doing so they can be better. So when you call us, we're going to arrive fast, professionally, the best practices, the most amazing technology, and then with compassion, because compassion is the foundation of everything that we do. So for the residents of this historically significant city, your fire, your EMS needs, your emergency management needs, they're in really, really good hands. And you should be proud of the men and women that ride on those fire trucks.
How about for you personally? You have met a lot of people in this community. You have friends in this community. You have people that I'm guessing you didn't get a chance to talk to after this retirement went down. What's your message to them?
There are a lot of people that when, on the day that I retired, I didn't get a chance to say bye to. I didn't get a chance to have any conversation with them. I didn't get a chance to give my perspective on what was being said or what was done. And to the members or the people of this community, and my firefighters are part of that community also because we're a huge family, but to the residents of this city, thank you, because you've wrapped your arms around me. You've wrapped your arms around my kids, around my family. You've welcomed me into this city. I was the first outside fire chief ever hired, first African-American fire chief ever hired, and you welcomed me into this city like I was one of yours. So for that, I'm humbled because people come up to the store at H-E-B or Lowe's and they're still proud of me. And they have great words to say to me. So for those of you that I've known for this last 16 years and a half, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your love. It's nothing that you can bottle up and throw away. So the relationships that we have built here, those things will never end. And so, again, I love this community, and I'll always be a part of it.
What's your message to your firefighters?
To be a good fire chief, you got to love your firefighters. And I love the men and women of this fire department. We're just getting done with football season, and so Vince Lombardi, a lot of people don't know who Vince Lombardi is, but he coached the Green Bay Packers. And Vince Lombardi said, as the coach of the Green Bay Packers, I may not like my staff, I may not like some of my players, but as the leader of the organization, I must love them. Love validates everything that we do. And that's how I feel about the men and women of this fire department. And so to them, thank you for an opportunity to allow me to lead you. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for the compassion that you show when people call us on the worst day of their lives. Thank you for doing the very hard jobs. You risk your lives. You risk your health. Our families suffer sometimes, but thank you for putting on those uniforms and getting on those trucks every single day. And part about being a fire chief is that you don't judge a fire chief truly till you look at the history of what goes on afterwards. And I think that my history will be judged on the legacies of these men and women that I have mentored over the years. These men and women that I have gone to hospitals, gone to funerals, in support of their families. And to those that we have lost, we go to graduations. We are invited to quinceañeras and father-daughter dances. And so the relationships that I've built with the men and women are unlike any other that I can honestly say for a fire chief and in a big city, because we have grown up 16 and a half years and we have built one of the finest fire departments in the world. So to my troops, I love you. I'm always here for you. I miss each and every one of you. And I know that we will carry on the great work that we do every single day. I have no doubt about that.
Let's hit what happened at the end of your tenure head on and talk about the statement that was attributed to you. I'm not exactly sure the exact words. Pussy's undefeated, something like that is what was said, is what was alleged.
And basically that was what I used. And I regret using it. And I take accountability and responsibility for it. I've admitted it from day one that I did say it. And for that, I'm sorry. And if I've offended anybody personally, then please accept my apology.
Do you think you let anybody down in this process?
Yeah. I think I let myself down, my family, my kids, especially my kids, and then the members of this department. But again, when I look at that, I have to take it into the perspective of it was one bad day. It was one comment, and I'm not going to be judged on one incident or one comment. And like my number 3 son, Langston, said, it's like you can't take away the work. You can't take away the progress. You can't take away the accreditations, the awards. You cannot take those things away. Even though we had a bad day and we regret what happened, you can never take away the work that's been done here in 16 and a half years.
So you're saying you said this once?
I'm saying that I have said it.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify and make sure. Yeah. Are you remorseful?
Absolutely. I mean, how could you not be? I mean, we had a plan and a vision to continue to run this fire department. And I've talked to some other fire chiefs, and none of them have survived 16 and a half years. But what they do tell me is a lot of times you cannot control how you leave or your exit. And I always had an exit strategy, and I'd always planned that I wanted to leave with my legacy intact and with all of those things there. And I didn't necessarily get to do that. But what I have realized through this last month and a half transition is that my legacy is intact. My legacy rides with the men and women on these fire trucks every single day. My DNA is deep in this city, and it will last for generations. So I'm not really concerned about leaving my legacy intact. I would have liked it to have been a little bit longer and maybe not under these circumstances, but the people that know me, the people that have been around me for all those years, they know who I am. They know the kind of person I am. And so it's my hope that someone that randomly sees this or whatever was reported is that they will look beyond that, and they will look down the road when they see these fire trucks and they see these fire stations, and we're delivering whole blood, and we're doing all of these things that no one could have even thought about 16 years ago.
That you hit on something that I wanted to make sure we talked about. Are you concerned that somebody that does not know Charles Hood, has not worked with Charles Hood, is going to see this statement, maybe even go back to the investigation over the sushi incident, and think that there's some sort of a pattern there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so far from the truth. And you know, it's unfortunate and we'll just discuss the sushi for a second. I went to a 50th birthday party for a firefighter that was dying of cancer. And I don't go to firefighters' birthday parties, but I had been walking through this cancer with this firefighter for 5 years. And I show up, and there's an entry, and this is what you walk into when you sign the book. I took a picture. There were 75 other firefighters there. That picture shows up a year later, anonymously, and I was disciplined for it. So yeah, so anybody that looks at that and they look at what happened now, of course they may have that perspective, but that is so far from who I am. And if I didn't care about that firefighter, I would have never been in that position to be at a party anyway.
Do you think your forced retirement was just?
You know what? I can't answer that. I think a little more grace could have been applied. I definitely think that that should have occurred, and I think a lot of people are very surprised by that. But again, the decision was not mine, but I do think my landing could have been a little bit softer for sure.
Did you have any idea when you walked into Eric Walsh's office that this was going to happen?
No, I had no idea. And truly, if I would have thought that, I probably would have maybe resigned, or not resigned, but retired earlier. But I had no idea when I walked in. So yeah, I was pretty shell-shocked.
I cannot imagine after 16 and a half years walking in and be given an ultimatum. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's move on, unless you want to talk about something else with that.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Anything you want to ask, though?
I want to talk about some of the things that you've been through as a fire chief that I'm not sure a lot of fire chiefs have been through.
Right.
And one of them was the death of Scott Deem.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about that over the years. I know it had a profound effect on you. And I know you told me about stories when you were a firefighter in Phoenix, right, and losing fellow firefighters.
Yeah.
Talk about that day, that strip mall, a set fire. You addressed the man that was convicted of setting it in a courtroom.
Right.
When I say the name Scott Deem, what do you think?
So many things. When I think of Scott Deem, I think it was a Thursday afternoon and I was leaving City Hall and it was windy, super windy. And whenever it's windy here, we always have fires. And I subconsciously said to myself, we're going to burn something up tonight. And when I got home, I got on the couch with some basketball coming on and I'm flipping and my phone goes off. And so I look up, okay, strip mall. It's gone to a second alarm already. And so I get up and I turn my radio on. And the minute I turn my radio on, I could hear Platform 35's crew screaming. So the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And when I heard that, I knew somebody was going to die. I just didn't know how many. I knew somebody was going to die. And so get out there. It was surreal. It was a parade of fire trucks going down the freeway, probably 10. And get there, smoke, thickest, hottest, blackest smoke I've probably ever seen. And go up and we're running the fire. We got at least 3 people trapped in this fire. So as I get there, I go up and talk to the incident commander. They're pulling Brad Phipps out. Brad Phipps is trying to crawl back off the stretcher to go back in the fire. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Get him in the ambulance, and then we retrieve Robert Vasquez. And we thought Robert Vasquez was Scott Deem, but Vasquez had also gotten lost. So once we found that out, the conditions were deteriorating. And I could have easily lost 20 people because everybody was willing to go in, but they saw what the conditions were. And so it's the only time that I took command of a fire since I've been here, and we had to go defensive because I could not lose anybody else. So, in the whole dynamic, it's like, Scott's wife was 6 months pregnant, had 2 kids. They were childhood sweethearts. The whole thing, it was a tragedy. And we're lucky we didn't lose more. But when we found out it was set, it flipped a different switch for all of us. And so we were extremely angry. And my arson folks and ATF and SAPD, they tracked this guy, they got him. And he sat in jail for like a long time. And it was like one of the things I really thank God that I was able to go to his trial last year. And I had this impact statement written. I'd been like, man, for about a year, okay, I'm gonna go hit this impact statement. And when I got up there, I'm probably from me to you in distance. And it's like, okay, if he looks at me and he is contrite, I'm gonna forgive him. And that's what happened. And so I had to forgive him because I had to release that anger that I felt for him. And so when I walked out of there, I felt like a different person. And so I was glad to be able to put that behind me. But yeah, that was a dark day for the San Antonio Fire Department and myself.
Yeah. I just remember that night on the news desk and how it just was such a massive fire, and then hearing the calls that there may be firefighters inside and just the dread I felt from the news desk. Yeah. I cannot imagine what it was like on the scene.
No, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Let's go back to, I guess it's maybe been a couple years now. Semi-trailer, at least 50 bodies inside.
Yeah.
That's another thing I remember of the interview with you, and you being emotional after witnessing. And I think you even said something to the effect of nobody should have to witness what you and your men just had to witness.
Yeah. The gross inhumanity.
Quintana Road off 35.
The inhumanity to think that there are cattle and horses that ride down 35 that have better conditions than these people. And this was the second hot trailer that we had. The first one we had was a couple years before that, and there were 10 that died. And at that time, I thought that was one of the most disturbing things I had ever seen. And so when this one happened, it was right at rush hour. It took forever to get out there. And as I'm going out there, I probably have a dozen ambulances blowing the other way, lights and signs, and we're transporting people. And we had transported, probably about 16 people. So when I get out there, walk up to the truck, and there's a stack of bodies. There's a stack of bodies. And I told one of the guys, I said, get some salvage covers and cover them up, because we had helicopters and everything over. So we wanted to try to provide them some dignity. And the smell of meat tenderizer. And the meat tenderizer was overwhelming. It permeated everything, and they had used the meat tenderizer to cover up the scents. So when they went through
the human scent.
The human scent. And when one of the command officers came up and said, at the time we had 46. I said, what? I couldn't imagine. I knew there was a lot, but what, 46? And I know that several of these that we transported, super high temperatures, brain injuries, hypoxic, heat stroke. These conditions, a lot of them aren't going to make it either. And so it was grisly. It was something that's hard to get out of your mind. And I remember all these prayer cards all over the back of the truck, all over the ground. And I regret not picking them up. I don't know what, I was going to turn them over to somebody or whatever, but they were blowing because it was windy, and it was all these prayer cards. And so my thought was, these people spent their last minutes in a hot, confined truck with no air, no light, clutching onto these prayer cards. And it was just one of the most inhumane things I've ever experienced, and the members of my department. So no, nobody goes to work. The crew of Engine 52 didn't go to work that day thinking they were going to see carnage that is going to be worldwide news. They didn't think about that. None of us thought that we would see something so horrific. And then that just teaches us that we have to be prepared for whatever is in store, because whatever we saw and we thought was the worst thing that we're going to see, there's always something worse. But for this community, between that, and we had just come off of Uvalde also, it was a rough couple of months. And so for the behavioral aspect, for our members, a lot of them had some rough times, had to be off. And we had to nurture them back and take care of them, because again, Our most valuable resources are the men and women on those fire trucks and ambulances. And if they can't come to work, then that impacts everyone in this community.
Yeah. How big a role did your firefighters play in Uvalde?
You know what? We didn't play the role that we wanted to. And that was unfortunate. And again, you know, everything's pretty much out about the command and control and things like that. But we had a robust amount of resources that responded there. We had sent whole blood via helicopter. We had sent whole blood via ground.
You went there to save lives.
We went there to save lives. And we went there to also save lives, but help manage the incident, to help provide the boxes for logistical support, the things that they're going to need to help them manage an incident that is going to continue to grow. So we learned a lot, and we've learned a lot working with Region 20 to help protect the schools in this area. If something like that, God forbid, happen. But again, it was frustrating not to be utilized in a way, but we did help open up the relocation center. We did do good work down there, but not the work that we went to hope to do.
How important, and even beyond Uvalde and what happened on Quintana Road and losing a firefighter, even what you just went through with the forced retirement, how important has your family been through this whole thing? Is that what's gotten you through? Your family, your faith? I mean, I don't want to answer the question for you.
Yes. My wife, my kids, a really strong circle of friends, people that know me. And they've been able to allow me to keep my head up and realize that this transition is just a door that closed on me, and we're going to keep it closed. And there's going to be another one that God's going to open up for me. So I don't know exactly what my future is, but my future is bright. And I walk away with my head held high. And there's one thing that I really want to address. And I heard it mentioned that I leave this department, in disgrace.
Was the president of the fire union, I believe, said
in
that.
disgrace. And so anyone that would say that, they're either a small thinker, they're a hater, or they really have no comprehension of the relationships that you've built with the fire department, uniformed, civilian, and retired, and a community. And the love that they have shown me, I could never leave in disgrace. I leave standing tall, chest out, and my head hung high. And so disgrace is not even a word that would enter my vocabulary in this situation. I'm completely blessed to be in this situation and to be able to thank everyone that's been a part of my 16 and a half years in San Antonio.
This was not the way you had it planned, though. I mean, you and I had talked about the fact that you were planning on retiring in November.
On in the year. Yeah.
You had Fiesta medals you were going to have made up.
Yeah. And it was going to be Hood's last ride, but it didn't happen that way. But, we can't control sometimes what our end is going to be. But this is a way to have an audience, to be able to talk to those that know and love me, to be able to have my members of my department see me. And Veronica was saying last night, I think.
Your wife.
Yeah. She said, you say we a lot, or mine. These firefighters will always be mine. I will always be part of the we of the San Antonio Fire Department, always.
What's next for Charles Hood?
What's next is going to be moving back to Phoenix. What's next is going to be just take some time and transition and see what's out there. I've been doing the same thing for 40 years. I may continue to do the same thing, but there may be other opportunities out there for me. And so we'll just have to wait and see. But the work goes on here. And I know that at some point in time, I will be back here to celebrate a member's life, to be there for somebody that needs me. And San Antonio will always be my second home.
What's your legacy?
Legacy. Legacy is a guy that came here 46 years old, 16 and a half years ago, 4 boys. Youngest was 4, and came in here with a vision to make this the finest fire department in the country, to provide fire-based EMS and to put paramedics on every rig and to get there quicker because my kids were moving here. And what I said, if Sheridan falls in the pool and Engine 46 doesn't show up here with a paramedic on board, I'm gonna be pissed. And so my legacy is that we are providing the finest EMS care in the world in this city. And my legacy will live on for generations. And I can't be more prouder or humbled than to have spent these 16 and a half years in San Antonio. It was meant for me to be here.
That's all I've got. Thank you for spending the time and talking about some of the things that I think needed to be talked about head on.
I appreciate your friendship, and I know for me, for my family, for a lot of people that are close to me, this was one of the things that we really wanted to do, to have some closure. So I thank you for giving me an opportunity and giving me a platform.
I'm honored to do so. Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, bro.